Hi, everybody. Big warm welcome to all of you. It's Friday afternoon. Here we are for our tea or Prosecco or bubbly or whatever at the Ritz. And as I said, it's the end of the week. So I hope you've had a good week and you're looking forward now to the weekend. Maybe you're meeting up with some friends or your family in a way that hasn't been possible for the last few weeks. So something to look forward to, I hope, for you. Today, I thought I'd talk a little bit about how it's possible to be happy in the single state. It's a sad thing that for very, very many women, because we tend to live longer than our male counterparts, that they will end up on their own. I've actually been on my own now for a very long time, been divorced for about 30 years, and I've really pretty much lived on my own for the last 25 years or so. Not entirely during that time without a partner, but for most of the time anyway. And also over the last few weeks, we've had this enforced social isolation. So I have been giving quite a lot of thought during that time to how happy and contented I am in my single state, and whether I should actually think, before it is absolutely too late, to perhaps go internet dating and to see if I can, finally find somebody that I want to spend the rest of whatever life I have left to live with somebody else. So let's talk about that, this whole idea of a woman on her own. The opening lines, probably the most famous opening lines of any book in the English language anyway, is it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in search of a wife, which is from Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And I feel that in our society anyway, it is a truth universally acknowledged that any single woman must be in search of a partner or a husband of some sort. So I would question that, and certainly for me anyway, it's something that I have long questioned. It is quite interesting, isn't it, how the words that we use for women on their own are pretty negative in terms of their connotation. The first and oldest is spinster, spinster of this parish. In fact, I had an Aunt Ada, who was a spinster, and people used to say of my Aunt Ada, oh, well, she's been left on the shelf. Is that a terrible notion? That you're somehow goods that nobody found attractive enough to take off the shelf. In fact, she'd lost her fiancé during the Great War, and like a lot of women, there was a surfeit of young women after the Great War when so many young men were killed, and Ada never found a replacement for her beloved fiancé. But she lived a perfectly happy life on her own. She was an extremely proficient tailoress, I think you could call her. She made beautiful clothes. She lived very happily until she was well into her 80s. And although others might have pitied her, I don't think she ever pitied herself, that was for sure. Then we've got the term singleton, popularised by Helen Fielding in her book Bridget Jones' Diary, which was hilarious. The hilarious attempts of a woman in her, what was she, in her 30s, to find a partner that wasn't, that was reliable and nice, and somebody that she actually wanted to marry. Of course, it was in many ways a parody of Pride and Prejudice. I mean, she even called her main character, male character, Mr. Darcy in that. But it was like a modern take on the search of a single woman for a man, and all the escapades that she got up to. And then we have people like me who've been married but are no longer so, and we are called divorcees, although my divorce was such a long time ago that I really don't think that the term divorcee applies to me anymore, but there isn't a substitute. And then we have the very sad situation of those women, some of whom might be watching this video, who through no choice of their own have ended up alone because your partner has died. So we might be, singletons from choice. We might be divorcees because our marriages haven't survived, or we might be widows. But we are the object often of a certain degree of not so much pity, I would think, but questioning. It's like, well, she's on her own, but surely, she must be looking for a partner. So in this, I want to propose an alternative narrative, if you like, and that is that no, I'm not looking for a partner, and I would describe myself in the terms of happily single at heart. So it's very much a choice that I'm making, and I would say that my reluctance to search is very much greater than my need to find. In fact, I read quite an interesting parts of an interesting book a while ago. It was called The Best of Single Life by somebody called Dr. Bella DePaulo. And she made a comment in that, a quote in that, which I'll read out here. People who are single at heart lead their best and most authentic lives on their own. It's ridiculous to assume that everyone who is alone is also lonely. So this idea that somebody like me is not, as according to the truth universally acknowledged, in want of or in search of a partner, but actually I have found the truest expression of myself living alone. I mean, that makes me sound like a terrible narcissist. Oh my goodness, she must be so selfish and narcissistic to love living alone. But I want to explain it in a slightly different way. I don't despise marriage. Let me say that very loudly and very clearly. I didn't make it beyond 20 years. In fact, ironically, next month it would have been, had we stayed together, our golden wedding anniversary. And I've seen lots and lots of people celebrating their golden wedding anniversaries on Super Troopers. And I love to see it. I love to see these people who are still with their partners after 50 years, and happily so. And as we all live longer, we're going to be celebrating those wedding anniversaries, surprising, 60 years together, even 70 years together. I mean, how brilliant is that? And I have to say that I have several friends who are very happily married, and I look at them and I can see how brilliant it is when you have met and fallen in love with the love of your life. You are with that person, you still like their company, you still enjoy being with them, you like doing things together, you still fancy each other. I mean, I can see that in friends that I have, and I can utterly get and understand that that is the most amazing thing to have in your life. I have other friends who are married in a slightly different way. They're not like two halves of a whole. They live quite strong and independent lives within their marriage. But that again is, I think, brilliant, because if you can carry on having your own friendships, having your own interests, spending time apart, but still go back to that person and love the time that you spend with them. Again, what a perfect balance that is for somebody and way to live their life. So I do not see marriage as something negative, although of course it can be extremely negative if you happen to find yourself with the wrong person, or the person that you have fallen out of love with. So I am never lonely. I want to reiterate that. Quite a lot of people assume that if you do live alone, you must at times be lonely. During lockdown, have I had times where I was lonely? Honestly, no. I think I am an introvert. Introverts are interesting. The difference between an introvert and an extrovert is that extroverts tend to need and want lots of people around them to feel happy. Introverts tend not to need lots of people around them to feel happy. They're very happy in their own company. It's not that I'm not sociable by being an introvert. It's not that I don't like people. It's not that I don't like going out and meeting my friends. I like doing all of those things. But an introvert is somebody who finds aloneness an attractive concept. And I would suggest that extroverts find aloneness quite a challenging concept. So I try and be my own best friend. I heard that expression given on Desert Island Discs, the brilliant poet Benjamin Zephaniah, and he said, I would find it very easy to be on a desert island because I'm my own best friend. I like myself. I like being with myself. So I feel like I can say that too. And I don't need another person to make me feel whole, complete, or better about myself. I also think that you come to a point, and I think I've definitely reached this point and probably did so quite a long time ago, when you actually can't successfully live with another person. I have got very used to making my own decisions about every single last little thing. I choose the food that I'm going to eat every evening. I choose the television programs that I'm going to watch. I've got complete control over that remote. I might make my own decisions about money, about plans and ideas that I have for all sorts of things. I never have to refer those to another person. Now, some of you may love the fact that you always share those decisions with somebody else and that you have somebody to eat a meal with every evening, and you don't envy my, my control of the remote and all those kind of things. But again, if, like me, you are fiercely independent and you enjoy, making those decisions for yourself, then there is no fear and there is no challenge in being on your own. I would say that I'm pretty much unmarriageable now. I have tried one or two. I've had one or two forays into the possibility of other relationships with people since I got divorced. I joined something called Drawing Down the Moon, pre-internet dating, but this was something that you went along to and gave your details. It was quite expensive to join, and all I can say is that I was then given a book of what looked a bit like knitting patterns. Do you remember how knitting patterns used to be? Pictures in sort of plastic sleeves, and you'd flick through and say, "Oh, I think I'll knit that." Well, this was a book of prospective partners of men. You flick through and you think, oh, I think I'll have that. So I chose one or two, and I had one or two dates, which were fairly disastrous, I'll have to say. One was a dinner date with a man who spent the entire evening complaining about his wife, who he kept saying was an absolute bitch. I kept thinking, do you really think this is the best way to keep me entertained and attract me to you? Anyway, I made my excuses and left. So, I've had my odd foray into the world of knitting patterns. Now, of course, it's online, isn't it? On Tinder, do you swipe right, swipe left? I don't know. I've never done it, so I wouldn't know. But it is absolutely not for me. So, no, I'm not looking. No, I'm not interested. Yes, I am actually perfectly okay on my own. I thought that I would share this with you. I wrote a blog about this a while ago, and I had lots of really lovely comments on it saying, thank you, Tricia. You summed up exactly how I feel. But most of my friends feel sorry for me because I'm on my own. So I would say to you that if you are in the single state, or you have sadly found yourself in the single state, or you fear the single state that you might feel is somewhere in the future, I want to give you some reassurance that actually you can find, as I said, the best and most fulfilled expression of yourself alone, and you don't need another partner, another person to validate you as a human being. Let me tell you some good news as well about Monday's Zoom call. We've got a wonderful journalist and writer called Helen Lewis to join us. She's in her 30s, and I love her. I've sort of followed her career, and I find her interesting, engaging, amusing, articulate, and just all round just interesting person. So I hope you'll find that too. She's written a book called Difficult Women, The History of Feminism in 12 Fights. So going from the suffragettes up to modern day, those women who've really made a difference to the women's movement, really. And so we'll be talking about that on Monday afternoon at 4:00 live. Join us if you possibly can. You need to sign up and register for that, and then we will send you the email with the link to it. Many of you have joined us for the last one with Annette and the one before that with Mags. And we've had on average somewhere around, I don't know, 180 people who've joined us. And it's good fun. And we will video it, and the video will be on our usual tea time at the Ritz slot on Tuesday if you can't make the live Zoom call. But I hope you will sign up for that, because I think it's going to be interesting and fun. So there we are. We're going into the weekend. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. You really enjoy yourself. I've got nothing particular planned at the moment, but I might have some family meetups, I hope. And of course, the rest of the time I shall be on my own and very happy in my own company. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I really look forward to seeing all of you, or a lot of you, on Monday on the Zoom call or on Tuesday in the video. Okay, have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.